And my questions were, on the 4th of October of this year, 1, how many taxi and bus licenses were on record as of January 1, 2023? Question 2, how many are registered as per October 1, 2023? Please provide a numerical overview of all licenses for public transportation. That was the third question. Fourth, what are the moratoriums currently in place in public transportation, and what are the caps of these moratoriums? Question 5, what responses have been received to the ministry's call to swap licenses? How many of these responses to the call have been honored? 6, what is the most recent complete picture of public transportation licenses? And please provide this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The questions asked by Ms. Sarah Westcott-Williams. How many taxi and bus licenses were on record as of January 1st, 2023? When I got into office, actually there were no real records of exact numbers. However, they were estimated to be, when we double-checked, at 190 for buses and 395 for taxis. Of course, these still had some licenses in between that some people had passed away. They were not transferred to their next of kin. And some of them had some requests in but never honored yet, so we looked into all of those. How many are registered as per October 1st, 2023? October 1st I don't have, but I have a more recent date, which is October 14th. We have 238 bus licenses and 480 taxi. Question 3, please provide a numerical overview of all licenses for public transportation. We have, in total, plates issued 240 for the buses. The plates ordered and online that we have on the shelf are 300. For buses, for taxis, sorry, it's 550 ordered. We have in total 480 plates out. T-plates, we have 240 plates ordered. We have 122 plates that are out. I cannot put it as licenses because it wouldn't be fair, because some licenses have multiple plates. They might have 2 T-plates, or they might have more than one on the license. So we look more at the license and the actual plates that are distributed to get a better view of it. What are the moratoriums currently in place in public transportation, and what are the caps of these moratoriums? The bus is 300 is the cap. Taxis is 550. T-plates is 240. G-plates is 90. What responses have been received to the ministry's call to swap licenses? How many of these responses have been honored? We received 33 in total. There were 3 of them that did not fall under the process. They were actually asking for a new license, so those were avoided. Left us with 30. And then we had 1 that did, the person retracted afterwards and didn't want to do it. So 29 in total, and all of them were honored. Just to give an overview, as an example, we actually retrieved 40 T-plates back on the shelf that were out in circulation because they were just roaming on the street and not doing what they were supposed to be doing. In accordance, in example, switched around 40 that came back and switched for approximately 7 taxis. So it was a kind of a cleanup, and it worked out how it was expected to work out. What is the most recent complete picture of the public transportation licenses? We have the bus with 300 as a cap. We have 240 out. We have 60 still available. The taxis are 550. We have 480 approximately that are out, 70 which are still available. The T-plate, we have 240. And out of those is 180 that are out, 60 that are still available.
Mr. Chairman, in following up on the answers provided, which unless, in my case, I'm able to really go and sort of dissect the answers that have been given, it's absolutely not clear what the minister has stated. And I'm just as close to the answers as I was before the answers were given. That means nowhere. Mr. Chairman, based on what has the moratorium that is currently in effect been set, and when? The one that is currently in effect, 500 and something, I believe 550 taxi licenses, when was that set and based on what? Secondly, the licenses that have been given, how will these work in connection with trans-border, I'm talking French and Dutch, transportation. So how, because the French have their regulations where public transportation and operators of public transportation are concerned. So how does that fit? Mr. Chairman, I think for me the most important question, because I cannot be satisfied with an answer that the minister cannot provide the growth or the increase rather in terms of licenses, January of this year, and after all the announcements made by the minister, come in and swap, you can change this license for that license. What has it done to the overall picture in public transportation?
Okay, so the first question, the 550, and based on the moratorium, what was the numbers? How did we come up with it, if I'm not mistaken with what was said? For the past few years, I can say at least the last 5 years, government has been ordering 550 taxi plates. That is just the clear view of what has been going on. It has been being ordered. They have been remaining on the shelf, approximately 160 plates that remain on the shelf every year. They're not being picked up. They have not been found in the system that they have been addressed to anybody, assign a particular number. As an example, if we choose 509, it has never been on the road yet. In those 5 years, it has never been assigned to a license, to someone that has a license. It's just been sitting on the shelf collecting dust. When I saw this as a minister, I saw it as a bad way to run business or to run the country. Because why order these kind of plates and have them sitting there when we are looking to generate money for government and to make sure money is coming into the coffers? Coming from the industry itself also, for over 20 years, having worked at the harbor, about 18 of them, doing tour operations and different things. I'm also working with the Taxi Association directly as a tour operator, one of the only ones doing so for many years. It has always been that there have been days in between, especially in season, that there is demand, but there is no supply for that demand. It's not only there, it is also at the airport that happens, it's also on the road, there's roaming taxis that happens. And it has been a cry from the cruise lines every time that we go to visit in the last 3 times for the year. How are you going to supply the demand for these cruise passengers when they come in? Why are you asking for more ships? Why are we providing you larger ships, but you cannot supply for this demand? This is why we looked at it, and we didn't just look at the moratorium as just moratorium without a cap. We actually applied the number that was on the shelf for those years and made that the cap, because that is what is available. That is what's on the shelf. And that is where that came from. When it comes to the French authorities and how will it work, the majority of the people that got these licenses in the swap, in the exchange, in the help to having their own permanent permit, these were all Dutch drivers, all Dutch passport holders. How they got their passport, that remains to be explained by government then. I just have to honor that they are Dutch citizens. They have a Dutch passport. They are equally entitled to a right like everyone else. And that is where we went with that part. They are allowed to go to the French side and drive. Of course, the bus association has a maximum, I believe, to Marigot and other destinations that they can have certain drivers drive. If those lists are full, they're full, but there are alternate routes like Point Blanche, different routes that are being not serviced or under-serviced. So these drivers will come in handy. The increase for buses was approximately 35.
Minister, sorry to interrupt you. You got 45 seconds left.
35 that were passport holders, but they were held drivers in the system. They got their own. And there are approximately 15 new ones that are mixed. Majority are new. 50 for the taxis, which were held drivers, all with Dutch passports, and approximately 25 that were also new added to it. So in total, 75 and 50 for the buses.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, there's a lot of congestion, as we all know, at the harbor with the T's and the taxi licenses. Is the minister, through you, Mr. Chair, not overstepping his bounds by trying to add more T's and taxis at the port? Did the minister meet with the Taxi Association to get a better understanding of the concession, what the concession entails? Because as we know, the concession of the Taxi Association has a cap. There's a capacity cap. Is the minister aware of that? Also, what did the role of the chief cabinet of the minister play in issuing the T, taxi, and especially the bus licenses? The chief cabinet of the minister that's sitting right next to him. I don't need to mention the name, but just to be specific. Is or has the cabinet been in talks with bringing Uber to St. Martin? Any talks recently about that? We'd like to know that, Mr. Chairman. What is the criteria used to grant these T, taxi, and bus licenses? I'm trying to understand clearly. So because we're issuing 500 and something plates, that's the cap? And my last question, and most important question, did every single person that received a bus, T, taxi license, did every single one of them have a Dutch passport?
I have a question in terms of, and please forgive my voice, I have a question in terms of what we are actually doing now that this cleanup has happened to actually promote more business opportunities for taxis. As you know, in most jurisdictions, most countries, taxis are predominantly used by the local population. We, of course, depend on tourism, but we need to find incentives for more people. For example, if 10% of our population was to use taxis, that's 5,000 people. If 500 of them, if that amount was to spend an average of $500 a month, you're creating millions of dollars a month for taxis. The Department of Transportation has to come with solutions for that, and I would like to hear from the minister on that.
So the first question from Ms. MP Halligan Martin. Capacity of the port and the cap for the concession, and if I spoke to the association before I did anything. Yes, I did reach out to the association reached out to me, a few members, some of which I'm seeing within the Tribune, with some concerns. Some of the concerns were T-plates doing taxi work, taxis doing T-plate. It was all a little bit of a mess and a little bit of a misunderstanding. So we did have the meeting. I did have that discussion with them. We did tell them what we were doing. Of course, it's not only the Taxi Association, the DSTA, you also have the Downtown Taxi Association, you also have the Maho Taxi Association, you have multiple taxi associations, also multiple groups of taxis that work together and do work. So it's unfair to just look at the Port Taxi Association when there's a lot more, which we are keeping everyone in mind, just not one group of people. My role of the Chief of Staff and what he has taken part in or not taken part in or what is being insinuated, I think he should answer that. And that can come in writing, because I cannot speak on behalf of anyone. All requests done with plates and with number plates were done via the first floor.
There's no point of order.
So one thing that was done was everything was passed through the first floor of the building, which we have a booth for the TIAD ministry. All requests had to be submitted with relevant documents, which were form of ID, registration, income tax for the previous year, your health driver, chauffeur, as an example, of certificate, or permit, and whatever other documents had to be submitted. But if they were not complete, they were not taken. And everything was passed through that floor and not through anyone else. The criteria on the plates, and if all were Dutch passport holders. Majority of them were passport holders, Dutch passport holders, as I mentioned. Approximately 50 to 55 from the taxi out of the 80 were Dutch passport holders. There were 25 new ones, which I can say approximately maybe 15 out of those 25 were passport holders, and there may be 10 or 15 that were not passport holders. However, they were permanent residents. Some of these permanent residents already held driver, chauffeur permits from government and were driving under other persons for multiple years, some 15, 20 years already. Also seeing that the laws, which I guess are made in Parliament, are not stating that you have to have a Dutch passport to have such a permit, allows someone with a permanent residence and that status to receive one also, because they are considered by law to allow that.
At RBC, we know the roles you have to play can change quickly. Whether it's a homeowner, a new parent, today's head chef, or the family chauffeur. Whatever life asks you to be. RBC is a bank for all of you. Win Christmas cash with a no-fee loan from RBC.
Are you SZV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SZV is cardless. Request your My SZV account today and enter the virtual office of SZV. Go to szv.sx and sign up now.
SZV, yeah. Your social health insurances.
The country has one utility company and it needs help. Why GB isn't taking solar farming on right now with monies from Holland that are available is just a huge question mark. There's a lot of things going on Facebook. GB is being bashed every day, not for what the leader of the Now said, but for what GB is not saying. And I think we all got to come to the table, sit down and work out what's best for GB. But what's best for GB right now is a financial loan. GB needs money. GB needs to be able to stay afloat. GB is paying a lot of money on fuel. $50 million leaves St. Martin every year on fuel by GB. $50 million. 20% of that is $10 million. So that $10 million, instead of buying fuel, maybe we could have started doing solar panels with GB. I don't understand why we are not doing it. You know, solar panels and waste to energy are two things that can happen right now. Even NRPB is running a program on solar panels, but you ain't hearing nothing. They're supposed to be doing waste management and have a waste to energy plant built, but you ain't hearing nothing. You're supposed to have recycling, but you ain't hearing nothing. And that is the problem. We play politics where we shouldn't be playing politics. That's the unfortunate part. But at least, I hope people are listening. GB needs a financial injection. They're not going to survive without it. Let us not fool ourselves. All these bills, at least there was a rectification from GB in the papers where people that have bills and need assistance can go in and discuss a payment plan with them. So when you get the 20 bills, just go in there and have a discussion with them and get a payment plan for 20 months if you need them, because it's 20 bills. Whatever it is, try to get a payment plan and help yourself. Don't wait to be caught and then your business or your home is in darkness. The people said, Mr. Bancampa, can you explain us what's really happening with this new law? And I decided, you know what? Let me delve into the law, because look, I hear a lot of stories about who's selling plates and who doing this and people that are non-residents are getting plates, etc., etc. Complaints have been filed by the national detectives, I believe. You're hearing a lot of things. But I just want to check the law. So I decided, let me delve into the law myself. And look if this law is even legal. Not because they pass it makes it legal, you know. Because we do things in this country and then we scratch our head. Because in this law, we go about talking about people being registered by SZV. But does the law really allow that? The new to-be National Health Insurance, the SAHA, the AHA, whatever they want to call it now, is not going to be in effect come the 1st of January 2024. The same period of time this law is going into effect. Listen carefully. The SAHA that would have regulated bus drivers becoming insured by SZV is not in effect. So this law has a flaw in it because it says come January 1st. So ministers, get off your high chopping horse and fix this now before you create a blunder come January 1st.
SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to SXV.SX and sign up now.
SXV, your social health insurances.
At RBC, we know the roles you have to play can change quickly. Whether it's a homeowner, a new parent, today's head chef, or the family chauffeur. Whatever life asks you to be. RBC is a bank for all of you. Win Christmas cash with a no-fee loan from RBC.
The aftermath of close to 2 days of rainfall in Gordontown and surrounding communities in East Rural St. Andrew.
We are saying to persons to still to exhibit caution, especially in driving in areas that are prone to landslides and also prone to flooding.
Heavy rainfall battered these communities, leaving a trail of destruction. On Saturday, during a multi-ministerial tour, Member of Parliament for St. Andrew East Rural Juliet Holness revealed that there were more than 30 landslides in her constituency.
We have had significant landslides right across the Mavis Bank Division and the Gordontown Division, to a lesser extent in Kintyre, and flooding in the Bull Bay Division. Those are our most significantly affected areas.
But with some residents concerned about being unable to leave their community, just how long will they have to wait before the roads are cleared?
We have been able at least to have equipment start the process of cleaning in some spaces a half of the road so that vehicular traffic can move. We hope residents will be patient and appreciate that the volume and the magnitude of the landslides is like we have never seen before.
We give the commitment that we are going to be here and we are not going to be coming out of the area until every single landslide, every boulder that is there impacting the movement of persons, that it is addressed.
The trail of destruction is evident, and it's obvious that it will take extensive work to clear the roads in these and other areas across the island. The big question is, how much will it cost? This was Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie.
It is not going to be possible for us today to give an extensive outlook as to the situation across the country based on the fact that we are still gathering information. The municipal corporations right across the country is presently doing an assessment. They are working in tandem with the National Works Agency to come up with a clear picture of what have taken place over the last 2 days.
At least 7 people have been displaced and their lives have been uprooted after their home collapsed due to a landslide. For his part, Labour and Social Security Minister Pernell Charles Jr. says support is being given to some of those affected.
As we make the assessments from the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, we have brought immediate support for the MP and this constituency, given what is taking place here. We will be doing not only East Rural, but at this moment we're in St. Catherine, Clarendon and St. Thomas, continuing to do the assessments with the disaster team to make sure that we can give as much support as possible to the families that have been displaced.